Shout out to the nation. Want to thank you for 190,000 subscribers. If you're not already a part of the family, click that subscribe button, turn on those notifications. And how about this? We drop videos all the time for free. Watch this video, and if you don't like it, you can always unsubscribe. Raider Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and ESPN recently dropped an article linking the silver and black to 3 NFL free agents: Amari Cooper, Asante Samuel Jr., and Will Hernandez. Obviously, when ESPN makes an article like this, I get a lot of people asking me questions, so I wanted to be able to break down on today's show whether or not I think that John Spytek, Pete Carroll, should go out there and sign those 3 players. I'll break it all down for you. I'll tell you why ESPN thinks that the Raiders should go out and get those dudes. But before we get into all of that, I got to show some love to today's sponsor, Panda Supps. If anybody out there is looking to get into the best shape of their life season, use code DRAFT at pandasupps.com. That link's going to be available to y'all down in the comments and down in the description of today's show. So ESPN recently dropped an article, and it was titled 2025 NFL Free Agency Best Team Fits for Unsigned Players. The fact that 3 Raiders players were in this article, or connected, 3 players were connected to the Raiders in this article, I knew that I had to talk about it. First thing is this: I know that this team has been a little bit laid back, if you will, in terms of going out and signing some big-name free agents. So when you see names like Amari Cooper, like Asante Samuel Jr., hell, even like a Will Hernandez, your eyes are going to be drawn to that. But I do think one of the reasons why the Raiders are continuously being linked is because we do still have money. $44.3 million, 7th most in salary cap space. So the way that I'm going to go through this video is I'm going to go player by player by player and tell you whether or not I want the Raiders to go sign that guy. Here's the thing. We got to start this show with Amari Cooper. And I know for a fact I have already had so many people ask me, Mitch, we've been talking about wide receivers. It's been reported the Raiders want a true X receiver. Should we go out and get Amari, who was drafted by the Raiders a very long time ago in 2014 as the number 1 person for the Raiders that year? So let's talk about why Amari is still a free agent, and this is from ESPN. Cooper battled injuries in his age 30 season and saw his production crater. After racking up 265 yards in one game with the Browns in Week 16 of the 2023 season, he managed only 250 yards in 6 starts with Cleveland in 2024, and 297 more in 8 games after being traded to Buffalo. 1 year earlier, Cooper made it to the Pro Bowl with a 1,250-yard season for the Browns. Despite missing the final 2 games of the season, he was comfortably one of the league's best receivers while catching passes from Deshaun Watson, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, P.J. Walker, and Joe Flacco. That was why ESPN thinks the Raiders should go out and trade for him. Here's me being up here talking about Amari, and I get that a lot of people are going to look at the numbers, and Amari was very good in 2022. In 2021, in 2023. Hell, this is actually low-key one of my fiance Alex's favorite players, Amari, because Amari, when he was with the Cowboys, was a good player. When Amari was with the Browns there for 2 years, he was a good player. But is Amari Cooper still that dude? And when you look at the numbers from last season, I'm not necessarily sure he is. So here's the big question. Should the Raiders go out and sign Amari Cooper? It's not a secret that this team has been looking for a receiver. When you are showing interest in guys like Chris Godwin, when a guy like DK Metcalf, it's not a secret that we know that this team needs another receiver. So you know what? Before I give you my answer, I want y'all to go down in the comments section, and this is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. The number 1 thing I want y'all to answer this question right here. Should the Raiders be interested in Amari Cooper? Type sign, type pass. My answer here after this YouTube ad break. The reason why I'm going to sit up here and say it's a pass from me, dog, it's tuck rule, tuck that, I am not interested in Amari Cooper for what the price you would probably have to pay him. On top of that, do we not remember that Amari literally gave up on the Las Vegas Raiders, or at the time, the Oakland Raiders? And I would say that at this point of his career, he's an average wide receiver. If you're telling me I can get Amari at average wide receiver price tag, I would be maybe a little bit more inclined to be interested in that, but I don't think that you're going to be able to get him at that type of price tag. I mean, Amari literally flat out quit on the silver and black in 2016. And I also think that there are multiple better free agent wide receivers that the Las Vegas Raiders could sign. I'm telling all y'all right now, I would rather the Raiders sign Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs, Robert Woods. I'm not sitting up here saying that all these players are better, though. I do think Keenan's better. I think Tyler Lockett's a better fit with the Raiders with Geno Smith. I think Brandon Cooks is better right now than Amari Cooper. I think Stephon Diggs is better. Really, the only one in this conversation that I would say is not better than Amari is Robert Woods, but Robert Woods has a relationship or has relationships with some coaches on this staff from his days back with USC, which I went back and I checked on, and yeah, he's got some pretty good ones. I'm not going to lie to y'all. But Robert Woods is not going to cost you what Amari Cooper would end up costing you. And there's no doubt, when you look at this Raiders wide receiver room, there is a lot to be desired, right? Like, you got Jacoby Myers, you got Trey Tucker. Outside of that, it's a lot of question marks. And to me, you still got to go out and add 2 other receivers to this room, whether that be in free agency or whether that be the draft. But I'm just going to sit up here and tell y'all right now, I am not interested at all in Amari Cooper. Let's go to the next name that ESPN ended up linking to the silver and black. Asante Samuel Jr., who's a corner. This has been somebody that I've talked about a bunch, and corner is still probably a need, I would say, for this football team. Here is why ESPN believes Asante Samuel Jr. is still a free agent. A shoulder injury ended Samuel's 2024 season after 4 games. The initial reports around the injury were murky, but he later revealed he was dealing with a stinger and unable to get all the way back onto the field by the end of the season. The 4-year pro suggested after the season that he would be ready to participate at the beginning of the offseason program when he signed somewhere, but he has yet to latch on with a new team. Now, this is about the Raiders, and this is why ESPN thinks that the Raiders should go out and be interested in Asante Samuel Jr. Samuel is only 25 years old and entering the prime of his career. He wasn't spectacular during his time with the Chargers, but we didn't get to see him play much for new defensive coordinator Jesse Minter before the injury. Samuel has spent the entirety of his career up to that point under Brandon Staley, and it's possible he could look better in a different defense. So should the Raiders be interested and go out and sign Asante Samuel Jr.? I'm going to stand up here and I'm going to tell you that this one to me is 3 just win babies, and I could say that it's pretty likely that the Raiders would be interested, and I would say that I would be, 75% on board with the Raiders going out and getting Asante Samuel. He's probably your best corner next to Ja'Cory and Bennett. And guess what? If you're trying to add a lot of competition to this cornerback room with some young players, you can say what you want about Samuel, you can say what you want about Ja'Cory, and you can say what you want about DeCamerion Richardson, you can say what you want about Eric Stokes. But all 4 of those young men that I just mentioned there are very talented. And if you believe in your coaching staff and if you believe that you have the ability to be able to build those players, well, then guess what? I think it's a good move. I will say this. Samuel is undersized, and some people don't like him playing on the outside, though. He can play on the outside. He can also play on the inside, so you know that they like that versatility. But my biggest question of why I didn't give this one 4 just win babies and why I'm not 100% sold on it is because, is he healthy? Because I do think, and I do wonder, are there teams that are worried about the injury because he's good enough to be signed right now? The other thing that would concern me is he's only played zone. That's all he's ever done with the Chargers. The Raiders typically play man with Patrick Graham, which who knows? Maybe that switches up. They've done a lot of press man. They do also play zone, but I would be worried if the Raiders' plan is to play a lot of man coverage this season, that might not be the best opportunity for the Raiders or for Asante Samuel Jr. But when you look at what he's done throughout his career, I 100% agree with what ESPN said in terms of he's really only had to deal with Brandon Staley. And Staley, to me, is a good defensive-minded coach, but he's not somebody that is built to be a head coach. And when you just see how much better players get when you actually get really solid coaches in the room like the Raiders have, like Pete Carroll is, I do think that you see a little bit more growth from those guys, especially when they come from, football families like Asante obviously does. Last season, he was targeted 19 times, gave up 13 catches, 143 yards, 2 PBUs, and a quarterback rating of 90.5. If you're looking to add extra competition, I think Asante Samuel Jr. is an intriguing player because realistically, when you look at all the other free agents out there on the open market at corner that I would put in the same realm as Asante Samuel Jr. in terms of talent, I would say it's Rasul Douglas, Mike Hilton, who's mainly just an inside guy, Stephon Gilmore, and Shaq Griffin. Every single one of these players is 29 years or older. So if you are looking to go a little bit of a younger route, I think Asante Samuel makes sense. Though at the exact same time, I wouldn't be mad at all if the Raiders went out and added any of these players here, because I do think having a veteran, when you have a extremely young cornerback room, and I mean, look how young this cornerback room is. Eric Stokes and Jack Jones might be the oldest players on this list. And those guys are both 25, 26 years old. There's a lot of unproven commodities, and I know the Raiders are high on Darnay Holmes. I want to be able to see what we can get at it to Cameron Richardson. I'm hoping Richardson has a year, kind of like what Jacorian Bennett did, but we still need a nickel, because I put Jacorian on here because I wanted to be able to show Raider Nation like Eric Stokes, Jack Jones, Jacorian, but we still don't really have a player that can play in the nickel, and it's almost one of the reasons why I think, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, I almost wonder if Jahdae Barron from Texas could be a pick that the Raiders consider in round one. Before we go to the final player here on today's show, Will Hernandez, the real question is, will you go to Panda Sups? And I hope that you do. Use code DRAFT at pandasups.com. That link's going to be available to y'all again down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. I've been seeing on social media there's been a lot of drama around Steph Curry taking an off day. And, to me, I'm not somebody that takes off days. Here at the Chat Sports Crew, we don't really take off days. And I know Steph has done a lot of amazing things, but maybe if he had some focus from nootropics, he could get it going. I'm obviously joking here a little bit, but I am serious when I say this. Panda Sups has products that's not only going to help you be the best version of yourself at work, it's also going to help you. Maybe you want to study. Maybe you're a student, you're trying to get the most. If you're at work and you drink a lot of caffeine, I hear you loud and clear. But also if you're just looking for some of their best sellers, their protein, they have vitamins, they have greens, which my fiance Alex loves. Like, I'm not going to lie to y'all, Alex doesn't love like every type of protein. It's too sweet for her sometimes. She also doesn't like all of the, the pre-workouts. It's a little bit too much caffeine for her. What she does like, though, is the greens from Panda Sups. And if anybody that's watching this show right now, if you want to go shop all of Panda's products, I encourage you to do it. It is owned and operated by a diehard Raiders fan. And if you use code DRAFT, you're not only going to get 25% off, but if you also spend over $100, that tells Panda Sups that you're watching the Raiders Report, and they are also going to throw in a bag and a shaker 100% free if you live in the United States. It's basically on domestic orders. So if that all sounds good to you, if you want the products that I use to get into the best shape for my wedding, hopefully you guys trust it as well. Let's go to Will Hernandez, and is he coming to the Las Vegas Raiders? Another player linked to the silver and black by ESPN, and ESPN had this to say on why they still thought Hernandez was an available free agent, and this is what they had to say. Hernandez is coming off an abbreviated campaign, as the 29-year-old suffered a knee injury in Week 5 against the 49ers and missed the rest of the season. Without access to his medicals, it's unclear whether he's going to be on track to play in Week 1. And this is why the Raiders should be interested in Will Hernandez, according to ESPN. Before the injury, Hernandez had quietly emerged as one of the league's best guards after an uneven 4-year run with the Giants. He found a home in the Arizona desert between 2022 and 2023. He ranked in the top 10 among guards by ESPN's pass block win rate and run block win rate metrics. So the question is, should the Raiders go out and sign Will Hernandez? I know that I've talked a lot about offensive linemen on this show, and I still want the Raiders to upgrade their offensive line. I just don't want it to be Will Hernandez. So I'm going to throw this one again as a tuck rule, tuck that. I do not think that the silver and black should be interested. I'll also say to ESPN crew, I don't know who or what y'all think of offensive guards in the NFL, but Will Hernandez is not one of the NFL's best offensive guards. And if that's what you think, then sure, more teams would be interested. But nobody thinks that Will Hernandez is a top NFL offensive guard. And I also will say this, Hernandez has played predominantly right guard. The Raiders went out and they signed Alex Kappa to a 2-year, $11 million, though when you really look at the deal, it's basically 1 year for $5.5. I don't love Alex Kappa, and I do think Will Hernandez actually is better than Kappa. I'm not going to sit up here and disagree with that. But they didn't go out and make that deal to also add another right guard. That's not what this Raiders team would do. If you're looking to upgrade on the offensive line, the upgrade comes at offensive tackle. at right tackle because low-key, based on the people that I talked to at the Raiders, they are a lot more confident in their offensive line that I actually thought. They like the depth that they have in Jordan Meredith. They think DJ Glaze is a good player. Thayer Munford's got some versatility to him. And then Alex Cappa, we'll see if he ends up starting or not at right guard. But you also have Dylan Parham, who could play left and right guard. So to me, I am not interested in Will Hernandez. I am not interested in Amari Cooper. The only name that ESPN linked to the Las Vegas Raiders that I do have interest in is Asante Samuel Jr., which, again, Mari, hard pass. Will Hernandez, respectfully, I'm not interested. Asante Samuel Jr., that's one that I could rally behind. So in conclusion, after seeing this article, I don't really think Bill Barnwell from ESPN knows the Raiders' needs or knows the Raiders team all that well, but I also know how many people see ESPN. I also know how many eyeballs are on that article. I also know how many people have already asked me about those three players. I wanted to be able to make this video to tell y'all, doesn't make sense for Amari, doesn't make sense for Will Hernandez. Asante Samuel Jr., now we're talking.